Right now, as you're watching this video, something unprecedented is happening that could change America forever. While you are going about your daily life, sleeping, working, spending time with family, a series of events has been set in motion that will impact every single American in ways most people can't even imagine. Are you aware of the silent war being waged within our own borders? Do you understand how a growing seismic shift in loyalty and identity is threatening the very foundation of the United States as we know it? What if the greatest threat to American unity isn't a foreign adversary, but a deep, festering divide right here at home? Recent polls reveal that nearly 40% of Americans feel more loyal to their state or region than to the federal government. A shocking statistic that has doubled in just the last decade. This isn't just about political squabbles. This is about a fundamental unraveling of national cohesion. What I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about the stability of this nation, about your future, and about the very concept of being American. A quiet, profound transformation is underway. And if you're not paying attention, you'll be caught completely off guard. The clock is ticking. For decades, we've taken the idea of a unified America for granted. We've focused on external threats, on global powers, on international trade wars and military alliances. But while our gaze was fixed outwards, internal pressures have been building, silently fracturing the very bedrock of our national identity. The geopolitical landscape isn't just about nations interacting. It's also about the internal cohesion, or lack thereof, within powerful states. And right now, the United States is facing an internal geopolitical crisis unlike anything since the Civil War. We're witnessing a profound ideological divergence, an economic realignment, and a cultural schism so deep that states are increasingly acting less like parts of a whole and more like independent, often competing, entities. Consider the escalating trade disputes between different state blocs, or the starkly contrasting approaches to federal mandates on everything from environmental regulations to immigration policy. Experts from institutions you've never heard of, operating behind closed doors, have warned for years that a critical tipping point was approaching. Leaked memos, some of which I've seen, detail scenarios where states, or at least powerful factions within them, begin to prioritize their regional interests over federal directives, creating a patchwork of conflicting jurisdictions and loyalties. This isn't about formal secession. It's far more insidious. It's about a functional decoupling, where the bonds that hold the Union together fray to the point of near irrelevance. Why does this matter to you? Because the stability of the entire global economy rests on a unified America. The value of your dollar, the security of your job, the very quality of your daily life are all inextricably linked to the perception of a strong, unified United States. If that perception collapses, the ripple effects will be catastrophic, reaching into every household, every retirement fund, every local community. The global stage is watching, and some players are actively encouraging these internal fissures, seeing opportunity in our disunity. Let's break down exactly how this silent, alarming shift is manifesting across the nation. This isn't theoretical. These are the forces at play right now. First, California and the Pacific Rim shift. We're seeing California, the fifth largest economy in the world, increasingly pivot away from the traditional East Coast-centric federal policies towards a deeper, more direct alignment with Asian economies. Trade missions bypass federal channels, tech giants foster direct diplomatic ties, and environmental regulations clash fiercely with federal standards. This isn't merely economic, it's a profound cultural and political divergence, the consequence for average Americans. Supply chains traditionally designed for a unified national market are becoming bifurcated, leading to price volatility and product scarcity in other parts of the country. Within the next 5 years, analysts predict a 15% increase in shipping costs for goods crossing the continental divide, directly impacting your consumer prices. Imagine if your local grocery store suddenly had to source electronics from a different, less efficient network. Your next iPhone could cost $200 more. This will shock you, but California's own trade offices in Beijing and Tokyo now operate with a level of autonomy that borders on a separate foreign policy. The numbers don't lie. The state's trade with China alone surpasses that of many entire nations. This is just the beginning. Second, Texas and the border divide. Texas is acting as a sovereign entity on its southern border, implementing policies that directly contradict and challenge federal law and federal authority. This isn't just about immigration. It's about control over natural resources, water rights, and an emerging economic relationship with Mexico that bypasses Washington, D.C. entirely. The economic impact for the rest of the U.S. is staggering. Disrupted trade routes, increased costs for agricultural products, and a potential loss of billions in cross-border commerce are looming. We're talking about a potential 8–10% rise in the price of beef and certain produce items within the next 18 months. What happens next? No one is ready for. The state's energy grid, already prone to independence, is becoming a model for other regions seeking autonomy, leading to a fragmented national energy policy that leaves the entire grid vulnerable. Here's what they don't want you to know. Some of the state's largest industrial players are actively lobbying for greater independence from federal energy oversight. Third, Florida and the global capital exodus. Florida is rapidly establishing itself as a tax haven and an independent global financial hub, attracting vast amounts of international capital and talent with minimal federal oversight. This influx, while boosting Florida's economy, creates a drain on other state economies, siphoning away investment and talent. The consequence for you? A further widening of the wealth gap as prime investment opportunities consolidate in a few select regions, leaving others behind. Real estate markets in traditional economic centers like New York or Chicago could see a 5–10% devaluation within 3 years as capital flows elsewhere. It sounds unreal, but it's real. This also means a potential shift in tax burdens as the federal government struggles to maintain its revenue base. The numbers don't lie. Hundreds of billions of dollars have migrated to the Sunshine State in the last 2 years alone, much of it from abroad, but a significant portion from other U.S. states. Fourth, the Pacific Northwest's eco-progressive wedge. States like Oregon and Washington are pushing radical environmental and social policies that are fundamentally incompatible with federal regulations and practices, creating a legislative wedge that isolates them from the rest of the country. This impacts national infrastructure projects, resource allocation, and even interstate commerce. For you, this means potentially higher prices for goods and services from this region due to increased regulatory compliance costs, or even outright boycotts and trade restrictions from other states. Your next cross-country road trip might face a patchwork of differing laws, complicating everything from vehicle emissions to consumer product standards. We're talking about a potential 3–5% increase in the cost of anything shipped from the Pacific Northwest, hitting your wallet within the next 2 years. The clock is ticking on national regulatory harmony. Fifth, New England's legacy liberal enclave. While seemingly unified, the New England states are increasingly acting as a bloc, resisting federal influence on social policy, educational curricula, and even healthcare. Their historical ties to Canada and Europe are strengthening, creating a distinct economic and cultural corridor that often prioritizes regional alliances over national ones. This is a subtle yet profound shift. The impact? Divergent healthcare standards could mean your insurance coverage isn't valid across state lines, or you face different educational requirements for your children. We could see a brain drain from these regions if their unique policies deter national talent. But here's the twist. Some of these states are exploring direct trade agreements with Canadian provinces that could bypass federal tariffs entirely. A move that would have billions of dollars in economic ramifications for the entire U.S. Sixth, the Rust Belt's industrial identity crisis. States across the Rust Belt, still reeling from deindustrialization, are increasingly vulnerable to external economic manipulation and internal political fragmentation. Their reliance on specific global trade deals and the promises of foreign investment creates loyalties that sometimes clash with broader national interests. This translates to instability in your job market, particularly in manufacturing sectors, as companies navigate conflicting state and federal incentives, or worse, prioritize foreign capital over national directives. Factory closures and regional recessions could become more frequent and more severe, impacting local economies by hundreds of millions annually. You won't believe what happens next. Certain foreign powers are actively scouting and investing in these regions, bypassing federal approval, creating economic dependencies that are a clear national security risk. Seventh, the Mountain West's libertarian frontier. States like Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming are seeing a resurgence of anti-federal sentiment driven by resource disputes, land use conflicts, and a desire for extreme local autonomy. This poses a direct challenge to federal land management, environmental protection, and even national park access. For the average American, this could mean restricted access to national parks and public lands, higher prices for timber and mineral resources, and a potential for violent clashes over land rights. We're talking about a slow but steady erosion of federal authority that could see billions in public assets effectively privatized or controlled by individual states. It sounds unreal, but it's absolutely real. The numbers don't lie. Federal law enforcement agencies are reporting an alarming increase in direct confrontations with state and local entities in these regions. Eighth, the Southern States Culture War Nexus. The Southern states are deepening their internal alliance based on shared cultural values, legal precedents, and a historical emphasis on states' rights. This bloc is increasingly challenging federal judicial rulings and setting independent social policies, leading to a de facto separate legal system in some areas. This affects your fundamental rights, your ability to travel freely with your beliefs, and the very concept of a unified national legal framework. Imagine your marriage recognized in one state but not another, or your professional license suddenly invalid across certain state lines. The economic implications are also severe, as businesses shy away from regions with conflicting legal environments, costing hundreds of millions in potential investment. This will shock you. Some states are now actively discussing forming regional compacts that would supersede federal court rulings, effectively establishing their own Supreme Court. Ninth, the Midwest Agricultural Belt's global food vulnerability. The vast agricultural heartland, while seemingly unified, is incredibly susceptible to global trade shifts and climate change, creating unique economic and political pressures that can decouple it from the national industrial base. When global food prices fluctuate or foreign powers exert leverage through agricultural markets, these states feel it first, often leading them to seek independent solutions or alliances that might not align with federal policy. For you, this means volatile food prices, potential shortages, and a national food security crisis. We're talking about a potential 10 to 15% swing in grocery bills based on international market whims, directly impacting your household budget. The clock is ticking on stable food supply chains. Here's what they don't want you to know. Some regional farm associations are in direct, unmonitored negotiations with foreign agricultural conglomerates. 10th, the unseen, digital, urban-rural chasm. Beyond geographic lines, a profound digital and ideological chasm is fragmenting the nation. Urban centers, increasingly globalized and digitally connected, share less and less common ground with rural areas, leading to a virtual internal border. This impacts everything from voting patterns to resource allocation, creating two distinct Americas. This means deeply divided national priorities, leading to gridlock in Washington and a severe lack of cohesive national strategy. Your tax dollars are increasingly being pulled in opposing directions, unable to fund effective national solutions. The numbers don't lie. Political scientists are now mapping digital borders that are often more rigid than state lines, predicting a functional national divorce if current trends continue, costing the economy trillions in lost productivity and innovation. The cascade effect of these profound internal divisions is accelerating, pushing the United States towards a future that fewer and fewer people are prepared for. We are witnessing not a sudden collapse, but a gradual, insidious fragmentation where the very concept of a unified American identity is being hollowed out from within. Imagine a near-future America where your passport might signify less than your state ID, where interstate commerce faces tariffs, and where moving from one state to another feels like crossing an international border. The implications for the dollar, for global stability, and for your personal freedoms are terrifying. We could be looking at a nation so fractured that it becomes irrelevant on the world stage, leaving a power vacuum that hostile nations will eagerly fill. This is not some distant threat. This is the reality unfolding now, with consequences that will materialize within the next 3 to 5 years. While a pessimistic scenario paints a picture of irreversible decline, there is a cautious optimism. If we understand the forces at play, if we acknowledge the depth of these divisions, there's still a chance to rebuild, to reforge a common identity. But it requires immediate, radical action and an honesty about our internal fragility that we've so far refused to confront. What happens next? No one is ready for, but you can be. Do you believe America can truly remain united in the face of these escalating internal pressures? Or are we witnessing the slow, inevitable birth of multiple Americas? Share your thoughts in the comments below. This isn't just a video, it's a critical warning. What you do with this information, how you share it, and how you demand answers will shape the very future of our nation. Make sure you share this video with everyone you know, because the truth needs to get out. And subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell, because in our next deep dive, we'll uncover which foreign powers are really benefiting from America's internal turmoil, and how their influence is already directly impacting your daily life. You cannot afford to miss it. The clock is ticking.